Hello guys, and welcome to Perspect Yourselves. We just want to make clear, guys, that these topics that we discuss are just the best of our spiritual knowledge, and we hope you guys just benefit from what we say. Along with me today, we're going to be talking about service, and we've got our co-hosts, the beautiful Parthenia, and we have Gina, and we have Joe.
So we're not beautiful?
No, well, you're mediocre.
Get to the point.
All right. Today we're going to be discussing service, and I'd just like to read a verse from Mark right off the bat, just so we get an idea of what's happening here. So this comes from Mark 9:35. If anyone wants to be first, he shall be last of all and servant of all. So guys, what do you think about service in church? What kinds of service are there? Let's list off a couple right now so we know off the bat. Joe,
Sunday school teacher.
There's a million services. Sunday school teacher, outreach, convention, camps,
Cleaning up books after church.
Cleaning the books after church.
Away.
So all of youth, all of these are kinds of services. Let's pick, for example, being a Sunday school teacher, because obviously that's a service that we have in most, if not all, churches. What do you guys think about servants who may be underprepared and maybe aren't
Underprepared or even
well-versed, underqualified for serving? But a lot of churches kind of resort to it because they may not have as many qualified servants as they think. So what do you guys think about that?
I think that's sad. I mean, I understand the excuse, oh, we don't have servants, we don't have enough for what we need. But I don't think that justifies people going in there and saying whatever they want to say. You know, sometimes, and I've sat in Sunday school classes where teachers have said things and I'm like, oh, I can't believe you just said that. You know, where are you getting this from? It really breaks my heart. It makes me very, very sad, and particularly if you're teaching really, really young kids, because actually, really, it shouldn't matter, no matter what age you're teaching, but like with young kids in particular, because they take everything you say, and with the older kids, it's great, because then they're going to question everything you say, and you got to follow up on what you're saying. So really, it really, really concerns me, and I think there's nothing to justify it. Oh, we don't have enough teachers? Well, then deal with that, but don't just put anyone there.
But on that point, I mean, I agree with you 100%. And, you know, as a Sunday school teacher myself, I know
one more thing I have to say about that, too. My example is, sorry, Joe, I fully cut you off.
That's okay.
But you wouldn't do the same at university. You wouldn't take somebody who doesn't have a PhD in God knows what and just say, hey, can you just get up there and give us a lecture on whatever topic, or high school, or whatever level of education, whether you're paying for it or you're not paying for it. And why can't we respect Sunday school and a spiritual education just the same way as we would any other education that we're getting? You expect people who are qualified to teach you. You know, the Word of God is not any less deserving, so I think it's not acceptable, and I'm very strong about that.
I agree with you, but I think there's two different points, and I want to differentiate. There's qualifications and there's preparation.
Yeah.
And I think that each person that has gone through, we've all been raised within the church, we've all gone to Sunday school, we know how it works, you know, we all confess regularly, take communion. So I think we're all qualified per se. Whether we're prepared or not.
We should be.
We should be, but whether we're prepared or not is where the issue comes in, right?
Okay.
I mean, even the most qualified Sunday school teacher, like Uncle All-Star, you know, myself even, no, I'm just kidding. You know, even the most qualified person can still go in and give a terrible lesson and can still say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And that comes from preparation.
Yeah.
And preparation comes from not taking the service seriously, right?
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, not taking the service seriously is, you know, like there's the verse in the Bible that says, like, basically if you lead the child astray, it's easier that if you go through the eye of the camel.
Yeah.
You're pretty much
you're damned.
You're done.
Even more.
You're done, right?
Yeah.
So I think people, like, at the end of the day, like in terms of service, if you're doing anything, regardless, you have to think about that, because you're accountable twice for not just for your actions, but how you influence others.
Yeah.
But going on to the point of service, like oftentimes, like especially with smaller churches, even with big churches that have thousands and thousands of people, there aren't enough people. So it comes to the question of, do we not have any service at all, or do we have some service to the best of our ability? And I think that's the problem that a lot of churches are stuck with, right? When you don't have the resources, you have to make do.
Okay, so you make do with what you have, but you don't send in people in there. I think that still doesn't justify it. Because we're lacking servants.
It doesn't justify
I think what you should do then is try to work on those servants, and work with what you have. That's right, for sure.
Definitely.
But still, at the end of the day, it doesn't make it okay for you to just throw somebody in there, because we're so desperate at the last minute.
But that's why we have servants prep. That's why we tell people, like, we give, for example, for Sunday school teachers, there's so many different resources out there, right?
Yeah.
Like the
Oh,
bishops
yeah.
have written tons of books. Like there's even lesson
And there's
plans for
material
weekly.
online.
Tons of material, and it's
yeah.
free. It's easy to
and
access.
even the
whatever
lessons
it is.
themselves are dense. It says, you don't even have to go and do further research.
It's very
it's
simple.
so easy
Very
to be a Sunday
simple.
school teacher today.
Yeah.
You just need to read English or whatever language the curriculum is written
I don't
in.
know about that, but
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 do you know what I mean? It's simple.
Yeah.
It's
But
at
what
your
I,
fingertips.
what I want to bring up is in some Sunday school classes where, say, some classes grow up to 25, even 30 kids if the church is really, constricted and say they don't have enough servants. What if they have one servant that is, say, really well versed in the Bible and has been teaching for a while, and maybe can't connect to the kids as well, like a aunt or an uncle, or for example,
No,
somebody
that's very
married.
true.
Can
That
you
happens
add
all the
another
time.
part
They
of
can
it?
bring in somebody who's, say, not as experienced or has no experience teaching or anything like that, but can connect to the kids.
That
What
would
do you
be
think about
fantastic.
that?
Experience doesn't mean qualification, first of all.
But
yeah.
what most saying is
Right?
someone that's. I see what you're saying, and I think
I'm
that's
saying
great.
you could bring a high school kid in, and they would do a better job
Because they're able
because
to
they don't have
communicate.
it, like, for
Because
us,
they may not know-
they don't have the accent or like
The
our-
language
you know what I
barrier, the
mean?
culture
Yeah,
barrier,
things
the
like
age
that, they
barrier.
understand.
No, absolutely.
That's fair, but
Sorry, I'm gonna bring in another point
I've
of
mentally
view.
stopped you.
Okay.
yeah.
Payback.
Lock.
So there's but there's also, I find that there's a service where it becomes the same kind of people, and it's not outreaching enough to a variety of people that I think would be great servants. Okay,
Definitely.
and I think that's another problem, that it's not going out enough.
Yeah.
Servants have become the same kind of group. It becomes
Yeah,
sort
like
of
this
a
is the group
politics.
that's in charge of the convention.
I
These
know
are the
them,
people in
so I'm
charge of
gonna
the
trust
kids.
them
Yeah.
The Coptic
right.
All-Stars.
That's right.
Yeah.
Relying on the same people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whereas the young blood, like the people who are coming up,
We're
don't have
forgetting-
that
And they don't have the
chance.
chance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not giving the opportunity to encourage someone. Service isn't just about putting all the onus on that one individual to serve. It's a community. It's a team, right? Everyone needs to help each other out. No one's going to be perfect in serving, right? And also, it's about bringing other people to serve, because serving in itself is a blessing. So you don't want to be able to take that all by yourself. You want to share that with other people.
Absolutely.
I think, okay, yeah, these people can't hog up all the service, and there definitely be.
But it's true.
I
This is
think,
literally
okay,
what
but I
happens.
think the
This is
people
what
hogging
happens.
up the service want to give it up to other people. Like, I know that there's a lot of people in our church that are stressed from all the services that
Absolutely.
they're getting.
Definitely.
But they have proved themselves in a way where the Abunas don't want to trust other people. Like, once these people have set a standard of what they can produce, of what kind of plays they can do, of
But
how
you're
they teach
forgetting
Sunday
someone,
school.
you are forgetting a really important role. And then that God has a role in this. There's a reason why someone is called to service.
These people aren't working through themselves. It's not these talents they
You're right.
possess, right? These are gifts from God. Fair enough. I still think.
If anything,
but
I
that
think we
doesn't
don't have
mean-
enough servants out there.
You can never have enough. There's never enough, right?
And I
There's
don't
always
think
need
there's
for
enough.
more.
Except at the conventions. Oh, we know
Well,
what we're
one
talking
in
about.
particular, one in
Yeah.
particular, but we
Yes,
won't touch
yes.
that. But still, you're right. Okay, I think you bring up a very good point. Yeah, these people are hogging up. We need to share this service, otherwise, and it does. It becomes very political. It's like, oh well,
It's very
this is the
political.
service
It's very-
belonging to
yes.
this one person, and
But
people
guys-
start to associate a particular service with a particular faith.
Definitely, absolutely.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not touching that. This person's in charge.
I won't-
But that doesn't mean this person should. Okay, I think you're absolutely right. Service needs to be extended and bring new people in and train them. But that doesn't also mean, well, since you know what, you were hogging it up, we're just going to take it out of your hands and just throw it to somebody else who has no idea what they're doing. I don't think that's justifiable either, just so we can spread the
No,
love.
I agree
But
with you.
I
There
also-
has to be.
I don't think that if you take the responsibility all off one person and just
Just-
give it to a bunch of people
Yeah.
and just be like, okay, you can take this year off. And then all of a sudden the services
yeah.
drop.
And then
That's
what?
a little, I
Because
mean,
that's
that's
the whole
an
point of
area that
service.
you
We're
don't want.
trying to bring people closer to God, and everything we do is to glorify God, right? And is at the end of the day, I think, are we glorifying God? And that's the important question.
That should
too.
be the main thing.
But
Yeah.
the thing about service is that it requires a certain amount of commitment, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
And the hard part, unfortunately, being Egyptian and commitment, it's kind of hard to make them mesh at
Oxymoron.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow, but it becomes difficult, and it's really important, I think, to have a spread of young and old.
Absolutely.
Right? When you have
Absolutely.
too much
Absolutely.
young people
You're right.
Yeah.
to serving,
Then-
it's kind of loses its legitimacy to
Definitely.
a certain
Credibility
degree.
is
And
That's
too
not
old.
fair. Be
If
careful. Be
it's-
careful with that. That's not fair. That's not to say that young people lack credibility whatsoever.
No,
But
no,
when
no,
it's
no.
but you're
all,
absolutely right.
you need that
But
experience.
that's not necessarily okay. I think
You
yeah,
need
you
someone,
need the
you need someone with a little bit of experience who've done it before to help lead the way. And so you need someone. You need a. What I'm saying is, you need a balance. You need a moderation.
Definitely.
absolutely,
Sounds right.
And
absolutely.
there needs to be a bigger outreach. Do I believe necessarily that servants are underqualified? I don't know if I'm necessarily there to say that, because who am I as a servant to say someone else is underqualified?
And that depends on the church,
And the service
program,
too.
the service,
Like different
the
servants
individual.
requires different levels of commitment, different levels of intellect, different levels of experience. And I think that also comes back to what Joe said. And not only Sunday school is an excellent example of preparation, but I think preparation can be expanded to other services.
Absolutely, right.
If you
100%.
prepare, you can do a very good job.
Like on these shows.
Yeah.
So what
Obviously.
What kind of service do you think is out there for people that are, say, trying to get in? Do you think that there's some services that they have to do?
No, I think
say
in
I'm a
every
young servant, what do I got to
there's
do?
room. I think there's room for every service.
There
whether
definitely
it's Sunday
is,
school, convention, trips.
but within limits. And I'm going to say what those limits are.
How?
For example,
What do you
if
mean?
If I'm, and I'm just going to use myself, obviously
ahead.
this is not my case, but if I am like the servant that's responsible for going out and reaching out to, let's say, couples, young married couples, or even old married couples that are having marital problems.
Okay.
If I am that guy that has that expertise, which obviously I don't, but if I was, I
Yeah.
can't just bring someone with me that knows nothing just for the sake of learning. Why? Because it's such an intimate relationship between myself and the people I'm serving that I can't just bring someone in. On top of that, there's a certain level of expertise. What if he comes in and says let's say you and Mo are married, which one day you guys might be from the show. We don't know. But I can't, little Joe can't just come in and say oh, Parthenia, you're absolutely right, Mo, you don't know anything. And then, because you are doing,
Would this be your son, little Joe?
No,
who's-
but my
Little
point
Joe
is,
is coming.
we have to be weary of who we bring into what services, right? And there's
Absolutely.
different levels of service. Like I myself am not as good as a servant as the people that serve me. I myself am not as good as a servant as Abuna, right?
Yes.
And a service can be anything.
But
A
we're
ser-
all
But isn't
called
it
to
safe?
serve.
We're all
and
called
also,
to
isn't
serve.
it safe to say that
We're
the most
all
of
called to
services
serve.
available in church? Okay, you're right. That's a good
What?
example. First of all, no offense. I don't know why I would come to you for marriage counseling. I would
But I
probably go
mean,
to an
well,
Abuna,
and this-
right?
right.
But I think, having said that, I think that's because most services where young or regular layman people like us who serve, it's the case where you can take little people under your wing and guide them, and they can accompany you,
Within discretion.
Because no one here does anything major, not to take away from any of our services and the actual service, but I mean, a Sunday school teacher, whether you help put books away or whatever it is that you do, I think you can always take someone under your wing. There's always room
Within
for that.
discretion. I'm going to make one point, and this goes back to the point of us hogging services, right?
Okay.
Some services are so delicate that Abuna can only trust a certain person because he knows he's been tried, tested, and true.
Or
There's
himself.
absolutely no room for failure in that. And I'll
Yeah.
give you an example of that. A lot of people, a lot of science says the church is wrong, and that, create, like Darwinism, for example,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
A lot of Coptic people or Christian people, doesn't matter, they begin to read these things and they're like, no, there's no way a God exists, there's no way, and they begin to leave the church, and they pick up atheism or Darwinism, right? You're not just going to send somebody to be, go convert them back or go bring them back. You have to send your top guns. You have to send your all-stars. And that's why sometimes Abunas, they give preferential treatment to some servants. Because we don't necessarily know what the motivation is. I'm sure if
Yeah.
it was just a servant Joe, just go outreach to these kids, take them out for a coffee and the ball game, and anyone can do that.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we have to give the priests a little more credit to say that they do know what they're doing, and what they're doing is for a reason.
That's good. Yeah, thank you guys. And on that note, I just want to remind you guys to tune in next time where we'll continue this discussion about service. And until then, perspect yourself.